Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has generated a significant amount of buzz as a third-party candidate, even drawing interest from the Libertarian Party. In a theoretical three-way race, RFK Jr. would have the best net favorability rating, scoring 9 points better than Donald Trump and 14 points better than Joe Biden. This gap can partly be attributed to his lower name recognition, with fewer voters in general able to form an opinion about him. But it is nonetheless significant, especially as his polling average in three-way race polling against Biden and Trump is the highest we have seen for a non-major party candidate since Ross Perot in the 90s. With all of this being said, there are still plenty of skeptics out there questioning whether RFK Jr. will actually be a serious candidate this November, or if he'll fade into irrelevance by the time of Election Day, just as so many other independent presidential candidates have in recent memory. Before we take a look at the 2024 Electoral College map with RFK Jr. included, please take a second to consider subscribing to my channel down below. I put countless hours into making these videos as comprehensive and high quality as possible, and your support allows me to continue doing that. Hope you enjoy this video. The single most important question surrounding RFK Jr.'s candidacy, and all of the other third-party bids for that matter, is ballot access. To even have a chance at winning enough votes to have an impact, these candidates first need to qualify for the ballot in each of the 50 states and Washington, D.C., a task that is often easier said than done. Across the country right now, RFK Jr. and his allies are spending substantial resources, mounting signature drives, forming new parties, or engaging in court battles, all to meet qualification requirements that sometimes differ significantly from state to state. At this still early juncture, just one minor candidate or party is qualified in enough states to theoretically win the presidency, with 270 of the Electoral College's 538 electoral votes. That would be the Libertarian Party, which looks likely to appear on at least 37 state ballots thus far, worth 381 electoral votes. The Libertarians are in this position because they are generally the most well-supported minor party nationally, with about 3 times as many registered voters as the next closest third party, the Green Party. For their part, the Greens look to have access in about 21 states. No Labels, the bipartisan group behind the cycle's most well-funded third-party bid, seems on course to overtake the Greens. Overall, the organization claims to have qualified in 18 states, while Ballot Access News noted that the group had completed its registration or signature drives to qualify as a party in at least 4 other states. Meanwhile, the conservative Constitution Party has also made 12 state ballots and looks to have met the signature requirement for a 13th in North Carolina. Beyond these party organizations, Kennedy's campaign has officially made the ballot in 1 state, Utah, and claims to have qualified in 3 others, while an allied super PAC claims to have sufficient signatures for Kennedy to make the ballot in 4 more. Meanwhile, Cornel West, another independent candidate in the race, claims to have made the ballot in 4 states so far. Now, these candidates, and parties for that matter, still have time though. Many states' deadlines for submitting petition signatures, or registering voters, to qualify are not until this summer. In fact, the median date to qualify for ballot access as a candidate is in early August, while the median deadline for qualification as a party is in late June. It's also important to note which states each of these campaigns has qualified for. 7 key states were decided by less than 3 percentage points in the 2020 election, so small shifts in voter preferences there could especially matter to the Electoral College result. The map on your screen right now displays how many of the notable non-major party bids have qualified in these 7 states. The Libertarians, Greens, No Labels, and Constitution parties have each qualified in Arizona. So is RFK Jr. All 4 parties will also be on the ballot in North Carolina. RFK has not qualified there just yet. Nevada and Michigan will also have at least 4 out of these 5 bids available for voters to choose from, while Wisconsin has 3 and Georgia 2. None of these bids have officially made the ballot in Pennsylvania, but the Keystone State does have automatic write-in access. Now, for the sake of discussion and for the sake of this video, let's assume that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. does wind up with ballot access in all 50 states. Otherwise, we wouldn't really have much to talk about. Nationally speaking, RFK is currently polling at around 8 to 13 points, depending on which polling average you're looking at. Real Clear Polling's average between Trump, Biden, and Kennedy has the independent at 12.3%. But when including Cornel West and Jill Stein, his support drops to just 10.3%. That is closer to Decision Desk HQ/The Hill's three-way average, which is Kennedy at 9.5%, based on a total of 106 polls. This has remained roughly consistent since last November. He had peaked around 16% in this average last October. That being said, as we all know, the national popular vote does not determine presidential election outcomes. The Electoral College decides who gets the keys to the White House. So heading over to the 2024 election map, let's go state by state and see where RFK Jr. is making the biggest impact. First, we'll go ahead and fill in all of the states not expected to be competitive this cycle. These states, colored in the deepest shade of blue or red, voted for Joe Biden or Donald Trump by more than 10 percentage points in 2020, and there is no reason to believe, based on historical trends and current polling data, that they'll flip parties this November. Saying that, New Mexico and Virginia, for example, could very well end up being decided by less than 10 points this cycle, but they're still highly unlikely to be truly contested by the Trump campaign. So that leaves us with just 14 states, combining for 204 electoral votes, that will more likely than not decide the 2024 presidential race. Even then though, at least half of these states lean towards a particular candidate, with just the states of Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin truly considered to be toss-ups. Now, on that note, let's take a look at the most recent polls in each of these 14 states that include RFK Jr., as well as other notable third parties, going from the West Coast to the East Coast, starting in the critical battleground state of Nevada, one of 4 battlegrounds in which RFK Jr. has already qualified to be on the ballot. The most recent poll from Noble Predictive Insights, surveying 829 registered voters between February 27th through March 5th, has Trump leading by 7 points, with 40% to Biden's 33%. Kennedy garnered 11% of support among respondents in this sample, with West and Stein receiving 4% and 2% respectively. Interestingly though, another poll from Morning Consult, surveyed in mid-February, also had Trump leading Biden by 7 points, this time with 44% to Biden's 37%, as Kennedy trails behind with 9%. A third poll from Emerson College has Trump ahead by 10 points in a 5-man race, with Kennedy polling in just about 6% in this sample. And if we average out just these 3 polls, we get Trump leading Biden by exactly 8 percentage points, with the former Republican president sitting at 43% to the incumbent Democrats' 35%. Kennedy pulled in an average of 9% across these 3 polls. This means that Nevada, a state that has backed Democrats in 4 straight elections, goes down as likely Republican on the electoral map, due to its 8-point margin falling in that category's range. Shifting over to Arizona, a recent poll from North Star Opinion Research showed Trump leading Biden by 4 points, with RFK pulling in a whopping 18% in that survey, detracting quite a share from both Trump and Biden, who both don't even hit 40% in this poll. The other 2 polls we can look at here also come from Morning Consult and Emerson College, and they also both have Trump leading by 9 and 6 points, respectively. Averaging these 3 surveys out generates a 6-point lead for Trump, with 41% to Biden's 35%. Kennedy, meanwhile, garners 12%. So that 6-point margin translates to a lean Trump margin on the map in Arizona. Over in Texas, 2 of the 3 polls we'll be drawing from here come from the University of Texas, the most recent of which, from late February, shows Trump leading Biden by 4 points, with Kennedy at 13%. The other has Trump leading by a wider margin at 9 points, with Kennedy down at just 6%. The other poll from National Public Affairs has Trump leading by 7 points, with Kennedy also at 6%. On average, Trump leads by 7 points, 6.7 to be exact, with himself at 43%, Biden at 36%, and Kennedy at 8%. That'll translate to another lean Republican margin on the map, as the Lone Star state, Texas, with its 40 electoral votes, provides a major boost to Trump's electoral count. In the Southeast, we have Georgia, another key battleground in 2024. Bloomberg News, in consultation with Morning Consult, had Trump leading Biden by 7 points in early March, with Kennedy at 7%. A Marist College poll from around that time also had Trump leading, but by a slightly smaller margin, 5 points, with the former president garnering 45%, the sitting president at 40%, and RFK at 14%. Finally, an Emerson College poll between March 5th through 7th also had Trump ahead by 7 points, and Kennedy down at just 5%. So the average here based on these 3 polls is Trump leading by 6 points once again. He averaged 45%, Biden 38%, and Kennedy 9%. That's a third straight lean Republican margin on the map as Trump continues his sweep so far. Down in Florida, we have far fewer polls overall, as the Sunshine State is no longer considered to be a truly competitive state at the presidential level, especially after its hard shift to the right in recent years. And as you can see here, this is materialized in 2024 horse race polling. Here, by the most recent poll via Big Data, Trump leads by 14 points, drawing exactly 50% of support to Biden's 34% and Kennedy's 9%. Then we can go way back to late December and November 2023 for these polls from The Telegraph, showing Trump ahead by 11 points with 45% to Biden's 34% and Kennedy's 9%, and then by 10 points with 44% to 34% and 9% again. So there is some consistency here, at least in terms of Kennedy's vote share. Overall, Trump leads by 12 points with 46% on average to Biden's 34% and Kennedy's, you guessed it, 9%. That is a safe Republican margin in Florida, as Trump now storms into the lead in the race to 270 with 228 electoral votes to his name now. Biden trails with 209 electoral votes, none of which have come from the competitive states just yet. 9 states remain now, starting in the upper Midwest with the state of Minnesota. We have to go all the way back to late November of last year to find the most recent poll, which actually shows Biden leading Trump by less than half a point at 35.3% to Trump's 34.9%. Kennedy pulled in 9% in this poll. That is obviously a very weak lead for Biden in a state that he won by more than 7 points in 2020. And since it's the only poll here that includes Kennedy in Minnesota, it'll go down as tilt Democrat on this electoral map. Down in Iowa, we unfortunately do not have any polls that include Kennedy to draw from, so instead we'll mark Iowa down as likely Republican based on the 9.5-point margin of lead that Trump holds in the Decision Desk HQ/The Hill polling average, based on 8 polls assessing the head-to-head contest between the major party candidates. Shifting up to Wisconsin, an absolutely pivotal state in this election, and accordingly we have ample polling data here, the most recent poll of which, surveyed between March 14th and 18th by Emerson College, has Trump leading Biden by 4%, 3.8 to be exact, as Trump has 43.4% and Biden 39.6%. Kennedy received just 5.9% in this poll. Another poll from early March from Bloomberg and Morning Consult, surveying 697 registered voters, had Trump ahead by 2 points, with 41% to Biden's 39%. Kennedy comes in at 10% here. Finally, another poll from Emerson College, this one from February, comes in right around the average of the previous 2, Trump 41%, Biden 37%, Kennedy 7%. And on that note, drawing from the average of these 3 polls, Trump leads Biden by 3 points with 42%, Biden 39%, and Kennedy 8%. That margin of 3.3% is just enough to place Wisconsin above the tilt Republican category as a lean Trump state. Just to the east, in Michigan, the second to last absolutely pivotal battleground before we get to Pennsylvania, the first poll we'll look at here is in that grouping of Bloomberg News and Morning Consult polls that we've seen in a couple of other swing states now. Except this one has Biden and Trump in a dead heat tie at 40% each, with Kennedy polling in 9%. That is a wildly different result than this one from CNN/SRSS from a similar time period that had Trump leading by 6 points, 40% to 34%, in which Kennedy drew 18%. Finally, another poll, also from that period, March 14th through 18th, this one from Emerson College, comes in seemingly right in between the other two at Trump +3. Kennedy, meanwhile, draws in his lowest total of any poll we have taken a look at thus far, with only 4.6% though. Now this does mean that Trump's margin of lead, on average, between these three polls drops to 2.9%, just low enough to make it our first tilt state, as Trump garners 41%, Biden 38%, and Kennedy 11% here in Michigan. In Ohio now, the most recent poll from East Carolina University, interestingly enough, is Trump leading Biden by 11 points at 48.1% to the Democrats' 37.6%. Kennedy received just 4.6% in this sample among 1,289 likely voters. Another poll from early March, this one coming from Ohio Northern with Survey USA, showed Trump leading Biden by 12 points, but with Kennedy at a much higher total of 13%. And then finally, another Emerson College poll closes us out in the Buckeye State at Trump plus 9 with 47.1%, Biden 38%, and Kennedy again very low at 5.7%. Averaging those three polls out gets us a safe Trump margin in Ohio at 10.5 points over Biden. That does lift Trump above 270 electoral votes as we head to Pennsylvania now. A Bloomberg News/Morning Consult poll, again from early March, has Trump leading Biden by 6 points here in the Keystone State, with 44% to Biden's 38%. Kennedy gets 7% in this one. This Emerson College poll from March 10th through 13th, comparatively, is Trump leading by 3.5 points, with Kennedy at 5.4 among these 1,000 registered voters. We have a rare Biden lead sighting here, though, in this third most recent poll from Axis Research. It's Biden plus 1, with the incumbent president at 40% and Trump at 39%. Kennedy gets 8% here. The average here is very similar to Michigan at Trump plus 2.8, another tilt Republican margin. Trump holds 42%, Biden 39%, and Kennedy 7%. Up in New Hampshire, I only managed to find two polls that include Kennedy here. The first one from January 15th to 17th by Marist College has Biden leading by 3 points with 44%, Trump 41%, and RFK at 12%. The second from USA Today and the Boston Globe has Biden's lead at 7 points, finding his support at 41.5%, Trump at 34.1%, and Kennedy at 8%. Averaging just these two polls out gives Biden a 5-point lead exactly in New Hampshire. That's a lean Democrat margin. And filling out the Northeast here in Maine, I couldn't find a single poll with Kennedy involved, so we'll base the rating off of race to the White House's average, since DDHQ and The Hill also don't have a polling average yet for this race. Race to the White House has Biden leading by 10.6% on average, based on 4 polls, meaning that Maine's statewide contest goes down as safe Democrat. The second district, on the other hand, will be marked safe Republican, as race to the White House's average here has Trump leading by 16.5 points. And while we are on the congressional district matter, Nebraska's second district will also be marked lean Democrat, based on the 2020 margin, as we don't yet have any polls at all so far here in 2024. So that leaves us with our final state now, North Carolina. Considered by many to be the 7th key battleground in this election, I'm slightly more skeptical, as you'll see here. On top of the GOP's recent electoral strength, Trump is also performing very well. The first poll we'll look at again from Bloomberg News/Morning Consult has Trump leading by 6 points with 45%, Biden at 39%, and Kennedy at 7%. The second from Marist College shows an unusually close contest by North Carolina standards so far this cycle. It's Trump plus 3 with the former president at 46% and Biden at 43%. Kennedy garnered 11% in this one among 1,200 registered voters between March 11th to 14th. From there, we have to go all the way back to mid-February with this Morning Consult poll that had Trump leading Biden by 10 points, Trump 45%, Biden 35%, and Kennedy 9%. That results in a Trump plus 6 average between all three polls, with Kennedy at 9%. Regardless, it joins the group of lean Republican states, rounding out Trump's projected electoral count at 312 electoral votes to Biden's 226. Trump clearly benefited in several states from RFK Jr.'s presence in the race, but you can compare it yourself by checking out the video that will pop up in the top right-hand corner, in which I filled out a map based on solely the latest polls not including non-major parties. As of right now, Kennedy is in a somewhat middling position. He is a candidate strong enough to potentially sway the results in several states, but not strong enough to actually win any states outright. This is why many people on the right and the left and in the media have labeled him as a potential spoiler in this election, rather than treat him as an equal candidate to Biden and Trump, who are at this point in time, because of our system, the only candidates with a path to 270 electoral votes. You can feel free to comment your thoughts and feelings about that in the comment section below, and also make sure to let me know down there what other 2024 related videos you would like to see in the future. Shout out to my channel members on screen here. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to become a member, go ahead and click the join button below this video to receive exclusive perks. Make sure to subscribe to my channel down below, and please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. You can check out more content from my channel here, and as always, thanks so much. I'll see you next time. EP out.